Good morning, and welcome to Partners in Prevention 2012, our second day. We're delighted that you're here this morning. Sometimes transitions can be pretty tough, but when you have to go through one, if you take a few moments for an appreciation of the people that are around you, they're often made a lot easier. So I'd like to do that this morning, and I'd like to start by personally welcoming somebody many of us won't have met before, and that's Katie Mahoney, Steve's wife. She's obviously really well known in Mississauga, but in our health and safety community, she is often the person behind Steve Mahoney. We'd also like to acknowledge the following special guests joining us today, this morning, from the WSIB Board of Directors and other guests from Steve's office. In particular, I'd like to welcome Larry Barnett, Pat Dillon, and Louis Girard. You will all know, of course, that there is another transition occurring with the announcement by Steve he would not be seeking another term as chair of the WSIB. Today will mark a change for us, and so we thought we should give you, Steve, some time to put us on the right course into the future. Steve's career as a politician is well known. As a member of Mississauga Council, a member of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, and a member of the Canadian House of Commons. That kind of experience and indeed expertise has been well utilized as Steve was appointed the chair of the Workplace Safety Insurance Board in 2006. Since then, you, Steve, you have been a driving force leading the WSIB, working with Ontario's health and safety stakeholders to help reduce injuries, illnesses, and fatalities in our workplaces. So please join me in welcoming the Honourable Steve Mahoney.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, and good morning, everybody. Katie told me that she got up this morning and grumbled about that damn mayor's going away, so she's called a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I have to go early, and I'm gone, and she's out the door long before I am. So nice job, and she is actually the one kicking me out the door a lot of mornings. Great to be with you. This is such an important conference every year, and I know that our new chair, who will take over hopefully the day after I leave, May the 16th, Elizabeth Whitmer, is going to continue to support this kind of event and to show incredibly strong leadership. I must tell you that it's a difficult decision, but when you see somebody like Elizabeth coming in, which is someone that I recommended, and I know Pat did, and I know many others did because of the experience. It's actually kind of interesting. She and I were talking yesterday about how when she was the Labour critic for the Conservative Party during the Bob Rae days, I think he's a Liberal now, and I was the critic for the Liberal Party during those same days, we would travel to conferences such as this all over the province and always pretty much singing out of the same hymn book, and one of the things we were both violently opposed to was spending the money to build 200 Front Streets. In Hansard, we both said it, and now I've had 6 years on the 17th floor, and she's embarking on 5 years on the 17th floor, so there is some irony. We're going to have to sort of swallow some of those words. One of the things I thought about as a bit of a theme as I sort of make my final remarks is I like to think that my term at the WSIB has been about truth. And I'm going to tell you a few truths and hopefully leave you with a good positive message going forward. I know I can use that. Thanks. Before I go on about some truths about me, I want to tell you a great story that symbolizes truth. It's about an ad that was in a newspaper in London, England, a guy wanting to sell a talking dog. So a fellow took the ad and he went over and knocked on the door and said, "Could I see the dog?" He said, "Sure, he's out in the backyard." So he walked out and there was the dog, and he said, "I understand you can talk. He said, dog said, as a matter of fact, I can. I said, well, when did that start? Well, they discovered it when I was a pup. And the government was really interested in me, so they hired me as an international spy. And I would go around the world. I'd go into the Kremlin, I'd go to North Korea, I'd go to all these hotspots. And of course, they'd let me in because I was just a seeing eye dog or a helping dog or whatever. And they didn't realize that I could report back all these state secrets. And I did this for 10 years, jet setting all over the world. And then I got tired of it. And I told them that I needed to retire, I needed to be close to home. So they brought me home and they put me on domestic issues like terrorism and things like that, and I did that for another couple of years. And the guy said, that is amazing, I'll be right back. He walked into the guy's house and he said, how much for the dog? He said, 10 quid. 10 quid, that's an amazing dog. Ah, he's a lying bastard, he's never been outside of the backyard. I'll try to go outside of the backyard. I think a lot of people were surprised when I sent my notice to the Premier and to the Minister saying I was not going to seek an additional term, but recognize 6 years at the WSIB, I believe, ties the record with Bob Elgee for the longest serving sentence or term in the job. But I can honestly tell you in truth, it has been a revelation. One that I know Elizabeth Whitmer is going to see as well, mainly because of people like you. And the revelation, not only from the point of view of dealing with the stakeholders and the people who attend conferences like this, but dealing with the staff, because I have to tell you, if you went back into Hansard in the 90 to 95 period, there was no one more critical of the WCB than me, calling for a minister or a president or somebody like that to be fired at any given time. And when I got there, I realized that there was about 4,400 people in the organization, in the offices around the province, who are absolutely dedicated and committed to providing good quality health and safety for people in the workforce. And some of the stuff that I didn't realize or perhaps had forgotten, such as 2 people getting killed in the workplace every week in Ontario, was just astounding. I mean, when you think about that, and fortunately we're, I guess, a little bit better. The tragic automobile collision added some huge numbers. I think we lost 11 more in that incident, which drove our numbers in one fatal occurrence quite high. But we're still in the low 80s. And in a province where we have the money, the technology, the training, the commitment, the dedication to preventing it, it's just mind-boggling that we have not been able to succeed more. And so you will all remember the scaffolding incident when 5 workers fell and 4 to their death on Christmas Eve. And the government set up the Tony Dean Commission to study health and safety in the workplace. And I have said this publicly, and it's a bit of a sad commentary, but I believe truly that if that had been 1 worker on a scaffold in the middle of July, that panel would not have been constituted. So something good came out of it, and that is that there was a greater focus on workplace incidents, a greater focus on the tragedy that befell those workers. And while I wouldn't want to comment on any of the specifics, I know that there are criminal charges pending, and I hope that someone pays the price beyond what price has already been paid by those workers and that one young man that's still alive. And I know that through Pat Dillon's efforts in the building trades, they've done a tremendous amount to help him to get his life back together. But the outcome of the Tony Dean panel was that prevention was taken away from the WSIB. And for me, it was my soul. I just didn't sign on to spend my days worrying about unfunded liabilities and premium rates. It's part of the job, but it's not the whole job. And so I had to make a decision, and that decision was, first of all, I support the government's direction with George Gritziadis. He's a fine guy. I've known George for many years, and he'll be a truly dedicated chief prevention officer. And I know, too, that what this does in many ways is it brings the focus of prevention directly into the minister's office. And I think that can be nothing but good. So in a way, I had to make a decision about what I, Steve Mahoney, want to do and what I can contribute to this organization. And that decision was pretty clear. It's time to move on. You know, I don't think I've ever held a job 6 years. I left politics once due to health and fatigue reasons because the voters were sick and tired of me. But I really thought it was an opportunity to make a clean slate. And so I did that. I want to, without getting too mushy, Katie will tell you I sometimes cry at commercials. So without getting too mushy, just thank my staff, who actually were with me when I was an MP, Angie and Leah and Terry. And Mark joined me from Harinder Takar's office when I became the chair. But they've put up with a lot of stress, shall we say. I know you would all think I'm a happy-go-lucky, easy guy to work for, and I am when everything works. So I want to thank them for their dedication. But the real revelation for me was coming to the conclusion that, and this was pretty early in my days after meeting Joe Hutchin when I arrived at the board, that we just had an amazing team of men and women right across the province, particularly at the senior level, but really and truly in the offices in the Sioux and Thunder Bay and Ottawa and Kitchener and right across Windsor and London, everywhere. And I visited them all. And I like to think that I met all those staff, or at least the vast majority of them, over the time that I had the privilege of being in office. So that's sort of about me and about the staff. And another question that I get asked is, what will I miss the most? I said this was going to be about truth. And it really is about truth. The interaction that takes place with stakeholders who all have their own interest at heart, their own agenda, and their own concerns in many cases. So you get the consultants who want to fight on behalf of injured workers, you get the others who want to fight on behalf of employers, and it's pretty hard bringing them all together at the same table, Tom, as you well know. But I can honestly say that if you were truthful with them, if you were blunt with them, if you laid the cards on the table and you actually threw the ball back into their court, they generally came around. And we established chairs advisory committees, 4 of them, which meet on a regular basis. And I did something that I hope Elizabeth Whitmer, and I'll be meeting with her on Thursday, will continue. And I told every one of them that were on this committee, if you guys want to serve on this committee, we're going to meet in this boardroom at the WSIB, and I need you to sign confidentiality agreements, and I will sign it as well. And the reason for that is I want to open up to you. I want the board to open up to you, and if we tell you something, I don't want you running up the street to the minister or to the Premier's office or worse, to the media. What happens in these 4 walls stays in these 4 walls. These committees have been meeting for 2 years, and we have not yet had a breach of that confidentiality. So I think it's working. I think it's giving us a great opportunity to have an open and honest dialogue on the matters that are very contentious, and there's some tough medicine ahead because of the position of the finances in the organization, very, very much of that due to outside influences, and that tough medicine will have to be delivered over the next 5 years. But let me say first or lastly that probably one of the things I've enjoyed the most, and Mark and Terry will know this because they've been with me to most of the events, is the opportunity that I've had to come and talk to people like you. You're the choir. And it's always a little bit frustrating to sing to the choir, but you get it, or you wouldn't be here. You understand the significance of health and safety. You feel the pain of the people who suffer when someone is injured or worse, killed. You understand the agony of long-term illness that can destroy a family and drag people down, or you wouldn't be here. So on the one hand, carrying a message of prevention, the road to zero, the elimination, there really are no accidents, the elimination of injuries, illnesses, and fatalities in the workplace, carrying that message around the province has been the thrill of a lifetime for me. But I'm always singing it to the same type of audience, the people who get it. And I always ask those people, including all of you, seriously, go forth and multiply on that message. Carry that out. Take it this summer to your cottages, to your barbecues, to your backyards, to your kids particularly. You all know 10% of the people that get killed in the workplace are kids going to work for a summer job. You all know that. I've met the moms and dads firsthand. Rips your heart out. So you got more to do. I may be leaving, but I haven't done enough, and I will do whatever I can do to encourage prevention and encourage health and safety in the workplace. And I ask you to continue working along those lines. Embrace Elizabeth Whitmer. You will find her to be a delight, an incredibly talented, gifted person who has dedicated some 30 years of her life to public service in the school board and in the legislature, and who I think is probably the most honest politician ever to walk the floors of Queen's Park, and will be a tremendous successor to whatever I might have been able to accomplish, and I intend to help her do whatever I can. Thank you all. God bless. Keep up the fight.
So Steve, it's a morning a little bit of surprises, so there's just one more. It's my genuine pleasure and a true honor today to thank you for your years of leadership and prevention to workers and employers alike. To begin to say a few words, I know we all need to also thank your family, Katie, your sons, and your grandsons, for the source of the support that they are to you, and as the endless ongoing source of stories and jokes that you tell. You are known for your compassion and integrity, and for doing the hard work, for your willingness to make things right, and for knowing when a new direction was needed and how you could lead others through it all. Each of us in Ontario are better off for your courage to change and explore new ideas in prevention, a lesson that we will need to remember again and again. So if we ever find ourselves in need, to have an authentic leader take the stage, with or without a microphone, who's gonna throw away his prepared notes anyway, to be inspired and to be reminded, I hope we can call on you. For now, there are just a few others who wish to say, with the greatest of respect and care, a very heartfelt thank you.
Well, I sure appreciate the opportunity to pay tribute to Steve Mahoney. I recall when he came on council, when I was elected mayor in 1978. He ran for council and was successful. Steve Mahoney has been in the public service for so long that I often ask him, how was it in the old days?
I think a lot of Steve's passion comes from who he is, and who he is one of 10 brothers and sisters of a large family. He's dad to Aaron, Matt, and Chris. He's papa to Jack and Liam, Nolan and Maddie and Aiden. And that's who Steve Mahoney is. I'm Katie, and I've been married to Steve for, boy, over 42 years now. We've had quite a life together. Steve served as a municipal councillor, a provincial member of parliament, and a federal member of parliament, and all of that experience, all of that working within the communities brought him to the place where he could bring all of those life experiences, all of those work experiences into the role of chair of WSIB, and it has served him well because he's reached out across all sectors in all of his previous roles and understands and can work within all of those constituencies. One of the things that created an even greater passion within Steve, if that's even possible, was the realization that the grandfather that he never knew, the grandfather though that was talked about throughout the family, his mother's father, we all were well aware of his accidental demise many years ago and the blasting the Sioux Locks in Sault Ste. Marie. All of a sudden there was a light dawned, and I believe our son Matthew said, "Dad, wouldn't your grandfather be listed with the WSIB since it was a workplace death?" And Steve followed that up, and they went down into the archives, and I'll never forget him telling me about going down into the climate controlled room and going through the ledgers who died in a workplace accident, and the records were there of how much his grandma Josie got in a pension and death benefits, and what the pension for his own mother, for Steve's own mother. That brought a lot of reality to what Steve does and to Steve's passion. This happened within my family. It's not somebody else, it's my family. So now I can relate to those families out there in the province of Ontario and what they're going through. And because of that, he gains a strength that he takes out into his working life and into the rest of society.
On behalf of all Ontarians, I'd like to offer a heartfelt thank you to Steve Mahoney for his hard work, his dedication, and his commitment to serving the people of our province. Steve has excelled at everything he's done in his community and in municipal, provincial, and federal politics. We all know about those accomplishments, but you may not know Steve is most proud just to be a dad and a granddad. As chair of the WSIB, Steve brought all his experiences together to champion something especially meaningful to him and important to all of us, and that's the health and safety of everyone working in Ontario. Thank you, Steve. We wish you and your dear family all the very best on the next part of your journey.